Right, folks, we're back for a special episode today. We've got two, I'd say, pretty well-known hobbyists here. Made the trip up from sunny Devon, Shirley Gibson and Rob Fleet. How are you both doing?
Fine, thank you, Ricky. You?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. Nice journey?
Yeah, pretty good.
Bad. Yeah.
It's not a nice journey, though, is it?
It's a long journey,
Yeah.
but it wasn't too bad today.
Hats off to you for making it up here to come and share some of that knowledge with everybody. So the point of today's exercise is just to, we're going to fill people in on sort of your two's journey, just to chat, share some experiences, because I think everybody likes to learn from other people as much as possible. Yeah. And go from there really. So Shirley, first of all, known each other for a while now.
Quite a few years, yes.
How long was it ago since you first purchased that shoddy Ginrin Kawaku from me?
I think it was end of 2009, 2010.
Yeah, it'll be something like that.
Because I came back from Japan, trip that I did out there.
Yeah.
I saw a post from Fujo Omo that he'd bred them. I think there was also a Yugenji Ginrin that went to a friend of yours.
Yeah, that year, yeah.
I actually rang you up to ask about that one, and you said, sorry, it's sold.
Yeah.
And it was like, right, okay. The other ones are on NND's post. Fortunately, I managed to buy that.
Yeah.
Still in my pond, still looking amazing.
Still got it, still looking good.
Incredible fish. Skin on it for the age it is, because it's 13 now. I think it came in as a 2-year-old. Skin on it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Ginrin is still good. Incredible fish.
The one and only time they've produced Ginrin Kawaku as well.
I wish they'd do it again.
Yeah,
Really do.
It
I'd
was
have
a
a
special batch of fish, that.
bucket full of them if they did.
Really nice. So,
Yeah.
that question you've been dreading me asking, so how long have you been keeping koi for? I was always going to drop you in it.
Yeah. I think on recollection, I bought my first one in 1995, 96.
Okay.
By accident.
Yeah.
Went to a garden centre, bought something that wasn't a goldfish, wasn't sure what it was. Stuck it in a very small 3 foot by 3 foot pond. Outgrew it in a season.
Yeah.
Thought, no, if I'm going to keep this fish going, I need to find out what it is. Went to the library, searched through books, Japanese koi. What's that? Biggest mistake I ever made. Started reading about it. Here I am today.
The rest history.
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you, Rob, we've also known each other for a bit. I think I first met you when you were first getting into it, around the Devon Koi Club. That might have been right.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been keeping koi since '85.
Okay, no then. Fair play.
But yes, first time I got more seriously into local koi club, made a bit of a step up into what the pond setup was and the fish that I keep. But no, like most, started with a little sunken bass and a couple of goldfish, 1985. Put a little sort of pond liner in parents' pond a year later. With a couple of £3.50 sort of koi. And on Pond Marks 3 at the moment, really, koi-wise. And so we've been going nearly 10 years with that one. And hoping to build another one, but the way things are going, that might change slightly with obviously costs and things. But finding that I'm running out of space like most koi keepers do.
Yeah.
It's
good fun, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the previous pond did well, sort of single bottom drain, vortex, Japanese matting, brushes, etc. And had a fish about 15 years in that one, but never grew. Probably fed a kilo of food a year, no heating. Sort of probably had a dozen or so fish in 1,500 gallons. Survived happily, did okay, but back then fish didn't grow to the same extent in this country anyway. But probably 17-year-old Shinoda Showa was about 40-50 cm when it died at sort of 17, 18 years old.
Nice.
Now you almost turn your nose up if a toe size, not nearly that. So you sort of.
I'll give you that.
It is a big change.
Yeah, I'll give you that. So I think it'd be fair to say where both of you are at, it's fairly, I was going to say in the higher end of the hobby, you're both very experienced and enjoyed time on the show circuit. Been around. Have you been in showing, Rob? Yeah.
Never actually shown myself. Been to a fair few shows, but
Shirley has. But I know you do like to indulge in a few nice pieces. here and there.
Guilty pleasure.
Is. What do you think is one of the biggest problems facing new koi keepers coming into the hobby these days? I'll ask both of you and see where we go with this.
I think because of the time that Rob and I have been keeping them, things were a lot different back then. Particularly in the southwest, we don't have that many good dealers. The ones we've had have retired, given up over the years. So to a certain extent, we had to sort of start at the bottom and work our way up. To me, from doing that, you learn a lot. You know what's going to work in growing on koi, body structure, everything else, pond maintenance, pond setup, correct equipment.
All the important stuff.
I'm not knocking it because obviously finance is a big part. If you have the finance to come in these days, it's easier. You've got the likes of drums, showers. Maintenance on a pond is almost labour free. Not totally labour free, but a lot easier than spending winter months cleaning out brushes and jack matting, things like that.
Not a glamorous job, is it?
No. I spent far too many winters up to my elbows in freezing cold, coming in with purple hands trying to hose off stuff. It's good that the hobby is going as well as it is. I think with the 2-year COVID break, there's a lot of people that have built ponds come into the industry. But I also think there's a lot of people that are trying to run before they can walk. If you've got the finance, it's easy to go out and buy everything. Yeah, it'll run fine for a while. As soon as people are hitting on issues, they're not capable of dealing with them. Parasites, for one thing. In the last 2 years, I've seen so many people really struggling with water issues, flukes in particular, not knowing how to deal with parasitic issues. And yeah, I think they need some sort of guidance. If you can find a dealer that you can trust, go to for advice, follow that advice. Facebook and other social media sources are good, but you get so many opinions, you just get bombarded with information and don't know where to go.
It's hard to know which direction to choose, isn't it?
I mean, as you know, I've had a couple of real knocks where I've lost good fish, expensive fish, through not knowing how to deal with it, and I've left it too late in contacting you in particular at the time. Those fish are no longer with me. So I had to make a choice of, right, if you're going to keep going, you do it properly. I tend to do everything myself now. If it goes wrong, I've only got myself to blame. Not that I would blame anybody else, but you have to act. As soon as you see an issue, you've got to deal with it. You can't afford to leave it to, it might be better next week. But in saying that, don't rush into things that, you know, if you get a slight pinking on a scale, it might be that they've knocked you in feeding. Don't take it out, anaesthetize it, treat the raised scale unnecessarily. If your water's good, it will go down.
That is very good advice. It's a big
I think people
one.
do jump in too quickly.
I've been guilty of it. It's one of the biggest things I had to learn. I think, given my age throughout my koi keeping journey, that sort of eagerness to do everything as quickly as possible, and when stuff's gone wrong, just jumping in, trying to do everything all at once, and making the situation 10 times worse. But that's where I've got today, so laid back, obviously, but that comes with experience. Chilled out, you see it, you see a bit of a bump scale, you know what's probably caused it, chill out, just leave it be, rather than sticking that net in, potentially causing a whole world of other damage and stress along the way. And, making your problems worse. So,
I mean, for instance, I had a fish that I took to the National this year, took it out the bag, obviously it had been flashing about coming back, you know, alien water at the show, different temperatures, this, that and the other. Got it out the bag, thought, oh, it split its fin, great. Put it in the pond, just monitored it. Within 3 weeks, it had grown back and healed, knitted together. You know, somebody else might have looked at that and thought, oh, split fin, what do I do? I've got to stitch it or this, that and the other. If your water's good and your pond parameters are right, you know,
leave it be.
It'll sort without human intervention very often.
And what about you, Rob?
I think probably patience is what people need more. I think we all got used to living our lives so quickly nowadays. And obviously with all the modern filters and heating much more affordable and easier to do with heat pumps and things. I think the trouble is it's great heating and if you want growth and everything, brilliant. But everything in a koi pond seems to happen so much quicker. So if you're having problems, they can get out of hand much quicker at that sort of pace. I did find, obviously, like for years doing it the more traditional way, because that's all there was, that you didn't have quite the same stocking rates because fish were much smaller. You weren't chucking anything like the same amount of food. So really things sort of stayed far more stable, which I know something you've been preaching, you know. Did things that I wouldn't dream of doing now, like, you know, clean the filters out once a week and just top up from a tap. Couldn't do that, struggling to do it even through carbon this summer. But you sort of, like you say, you get the apprenticeship and you can learn and see things, but also things happened it was much more manageable. Now we're sort of pushing, you can keep much more fish if you do it properly. You can get some brilliant achievements, grow things, like you say, you can match sometimes even better mud ponds for actual growth and stuff. But if, like you find, we've all had issues with parasites at some point, we all keep adding fish at a great rate of knots and upsetting the balance. And then, like you say, when you start sort of having an issue, then that sort of keep dipping in, scraping and everything else, it sort of compounds itself. You never give the fish a chance to settle back down. And I think that sort of stress fact is why you then sort of can have full seasons with issues. I found myself, even when you've had like flukes and things, you get down to 16, 18 degrees, it all calms down. You think you've got on top of it. Get back up to 24 the next summer, everything's going quickly again, and these things have got such a life cycle that they can overwhelm fish if you give them a chance very quickly. So I think, as I say, a bit like anything in modern life, we've all got everything straight away, and we've lost that little bit of patience and just stepping a bit
is
back.
The ultimate game of patience. It really, I think, to truly succeed in it, no matter, you know, even decades ago, patience is the key. If we look at, obviously, Japan, their culture, and I always look at the things the Japanese are really good at, and you see the level of dedication. Just been watching a crazy YouTube series recently on restaurants in Japan, and we're seeing chefs that literally dedicate to one dish for their entire lives. That's the level of dedication that it's not seen in many other places. But we look at all the things they're into: koi, bonsai, sort of samurai stuff, all them things, and the things that they craft. Time, patience, skill, and experience. This isn't stuff that's learnt from books. It's learnt from an old sensei who's, you know, been doing it for 40 years, and the apprentice has to serve 20 years under him before he can even be considered worthy. It's the whole part of the romance for me, I think.
But you know,
very, very much lacking, I think, in
the times you've visited Japan, their culture is different. Their lifestyle is so calm, which is grounding for all of us. You know, if we took a step back and just thought about what we do instead of ploughing in. And in the Western world, it's so much like that.
Unfortunately.
But one thing you do need is patience with koi.
It is.
You know,
patience,
and you get to the point where you learn, and it's, as you said the other night, pretty little fish, ugly big fish. There's so much truth in that, because if you're buying for the here and now, chances are you're going to get fed up with it, because it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't hold your attention. Whereas if you've got something that's got it there, but it's got the potential to improve, that fish will stay with you for...
Not an easy concept to get your head around, though.
It takes a long time to realise and appreciate what you should be looking for. And to me, as you well know, you don't have to spend an absolute fortune on fish. If your water's right, your pond setup's right, you get the right fish, the right feeding regime, it's a dream.
I'll give it a chance. I think it's fair to say you've had a couple over years, haven't you? Even when I've been out of retail and we've sort of met up at dealers I've been working with and just gone, Shirley, you need to buy that one. And we're not talking crazy money fish. I'm just seeing it and gone, there's longevity in that. And most have turned out all right, haven't they?
Well, one, for example, was one of the Ueno showers that you posted about.
Just come to mind. Yeah,
still got that in my pond. It's still got so much more to do.
Yeah,
and it looks amazing still, doesn't it? It's still youthful. You know, incredible fish.
Yeah, this is the start it had.
It's the choice. Yeah,
it was in my pond for a bit.
Fair play.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think definitely with patience, I find it the most rewarding part. You know, I like my Go Sankey. I'm more Sankey shower because I like that you buy something young, you see a sudden sort of spot of sumi come up, you see something developing. There is that with Kohaku, but it's a little bit more subtle, the movement in the Kiwasashi and the body type. But, you know, it seems such more of an achievement if you can take a sort of 1-2 year old fish, grow it to a decent size, improve the pattern and everything else, rather than just going out and buy it. It is that bit that you're like, well, no, I had a hand in that, getting to that stage, and that for me is the bit that I get the most joy from.
Yeah, I agree. I'm there with you on that one as well. There's something very special about it, isn't there? So, moving on from that one, best and worst experiences as a koi keeper so far. I'll get you thinking, won't it? We've all got them.
I wouldn't say it's my worst. The most amusing was helping Rob last year. Net, photograph, measure his fish. He's got a Makashi, which was a little bit lively. So we thought, right, we'll leave that one to last. Get the net in the pond. Rob's netting it. I'm stood by with the koi stock. And I could see it. It was a twist of the tail as it was down the bottom. It swam in towards the net, but managed to avoid it. Swished its tail again, came up, hit him straight in the chest.
Wow.
He stepped back about 2 yards, and the fish fortunately went back in the pond.
Wow.
I couldn't help him because I was in hysterics. It was the most comical thing I've seen. But the power behind that fish coming out of the water and hitting him.
From 6 foot down, it was 2 swipes of the tail. To be fair, it was a sort of hit, and it was a sort of me blocking it, because I would rather it hit me and go back in the water than the other way. That's not the only one I've had like that. I did have a little Ginwin Kohaku actually once did a similar thing, and luckily it jumped over the window and landed in the bowl of water that was on the ground that it was meant to land in anyway.
Wow.
And you just think, oh, where was the camera when that happened?
Crazy. But no, quite serious. Worst one, I know for me straight away, it was a real early one that had a profound effect on me. And I'd been down at a wholesaler's event, and it was the most expensive. I'd been buying and selling a few fish at this point, and I had been about 12, I think, maybe. I remember a Hirasawa Kohaku I picked up. Again, dearest fish I bought at that time. The amount of times you hear that same words, and I was pretty besotted with this thing, to be fair. And sure enough, it jumped. And at the time, the ponds were uncovered, and just between each filter, they were covered over. And we're only talking a 3 foot space in one of the greenhouses. But it jumped and managed to land directly on that. This kind of summer weather as well. And within a few hours, it was baked and gone. Devastated. Absolutely devastated. And they stick with you, these things.
Oh, yeah, definitely mine.
So come on, spill
that was my worst one, was with the new pond. I bought a Goshki, was up top end of what I'd spent at the time.
Yeah.
Been in for a few days. Usually put a couple of koi boxes across the front of the infinity window. Didn't do it one night. About 4 days in, and like you say, next morning the thing's on the ground, dead. Nothing you can do. And expensive mistake. It was the first fish I'd lost in that pond after about 5 years, and that sickening feeling of
it can be a hard one to come back from.
It's my fault, really. If I just put those boxes across, it probably would have bounced back in.
It really can at times. It's them kind of things where it can really have a profound effect and be hard to come back from as well. Yes, especially when you consider if you bring the financial element into it. Yeah. It's a hard one. For me, it's never so much that bit. It's when something like that happens with a fish like that one. I was so keen to see what I could do with it, where it could get, all the rest of it. I'd picked it out of this tank full of fish. So chuffed for myself. And then next thing, it's edible. Yeah. Crazy.
It's gut wrenching. It's the worst feeling I think you you can experience in the hobby is to lose a fish that you'll never have the opportunity again of replacing a fish, possibly of that caliber, and everything else. It's just make or break for a lot of people, I think. My best experience has to be my trip to Japan.
We've still not had the worst one, Shirley.
No, I'm thinking of that. There's one or two. I'm trying to work out which is the worst one. No, we'll start with the best one. The trip to Japan was just... I think back now and I can relive that week, hour by hour. It just embedded in my brain. It's something I'll never forget. Yeah. The culture, the experience of actually going to breeders out there. They make you so welcome. The fish that you see are mind-blowing compared to a lot of expensive fish you see in this country.
There's just so many of them in there.
Yeah.
I think that's the bit when you think dealers are and it's hard because dealers buying high-end fish, such a risky business.
Yeah.
The risk versus reward is not stacked fairly with them kind of fish, so that's why you don't see so many filtered over here. And when they do decide to invest, you've got to know it's in the right realms. This is why we don't see many absolutely monstrous or mind-blowing Goshkis or Deutsch Showers and things like that, because the money they go for, when it comes to someone spending that type of money, typically, you will speak more from experience of it, but you lean more towards Go Sankey than spending it on something like a Deutsch Shower or
definitely
things that might be considered a bit more risky or something like that. But you get out there and all of a sudden you turn up at Heroy's place and you see ponds just absolutely dripping in that stuff, and for a lot, it's something you've never seen before. Yeah. Incredible.
The Square Tancho was one I'd never seen before there.
Square Tancho.
Wow. Sold to an American hobbyist, apparently. I think it was 94 cm. But it was just like, really? And that was probably my first experience of seeing an enhanced fish. Because there's no way you could possibly produce a fish like that with a perfect square on its head.
Square Tancho,
and it was like, no, don't really like this. Right, back to worst experience, or bad experience.
Don't say meeting me.
I think I can probably relive. I might be thinking complete, but didn't we have an issue with the N&D show you'd had in the mud pond?
Yep. Lost that.
That obviously ties in with that, doesn't it? I think that ties into your earlier experience as well of just leaving it that little bit too late. Yeah. And I think for me, I know how heavily you invested. We were both massively invested in that process. Yeah. Really top toe sire we managed to get hold of, which again, as you say, is not an opportunity that comes around very often. And then you wait in the mud pond, you get a nice result, and then next thing you know, that's how it plays out.
Yeah. That was make or break. It really was. And it was, I wouldn't say it was fear, it was the wrong time of the year. My pond was covered. It was like, I'll just leave it a couple more days and see how it does. Scraped it, couldn't find anything. Partly my fault because I wasn't thorough enough. And the result was it died. Found it floating a couple of days later on top of the pond. Discovered I'd got Costia on another fish. So I'm assuming it was that. And it was just left. I should have acted sooner. Yeah. And as a result of that, it was, no, can't do this. Can't torture myself anymore. Yeah. It's either you get your act together or you close the pond down. And the fact that I'd invested so much and had been in it, it was like, nope, one more try. You get your act together and you get it sorted. Yeah. And touch wood, I don't leave anything to chance. Drives my husband up the wall because that fish has flicked a fin. Right, let's get it out, scrape it. No, leave it till tomorrow. But this comes back to you've got to know what your fish are capable of and how they react, and by monitoring them, observation is key. If you don't spend time looking at them, not just when they're feeding, but just when they're swimming around, if they flicked, are they passing urine? Is it pH time of the day different to what it is in the morning? If it continues to do it and other fish are doing it, you've got an issue, you need to scrape.
Yeah.
And that was the mistake that I made with the other one. And yeah.
It's devastating. And again, it's not just financially, the whole process of that fish was very emotionally involved as well.
I mean, I can remember when it was shipped and I asked you what size it was, and I think it was 54 something like that.
Rocketed.
And you said it's not as big as perhaps you would like it or thought it was going to be, but the body mass and that for a male fish. In fact, I did take it to a show, I think it was 2 years after it had been over here, and the judge said that is an incredible female, and I just laughed. So I thought, it's a bloody male, you thought.
Yeah.
And it could have easily been mistaken by most people would have said it was a female fish because the body on it was incredible.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually 68.
Wow.
That I managed to get it to. And it was just that head pattern, that 5 diamond Menoir was something I've never seen since. Incredible. But those big blocks of sumi, looking at the shower on the wall there, those big blocks of sumi were just mind-blowing.
It really is
devastating. It was like somebody'd got a painter's palette and just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you then, Rob? Best experience so far?
I suppose I've been fortunate, won a couple of growing shows for fish development. They were quite satisfying.
Yeah.
But probably what gives me the most pleasure is you go to a show or something and you just see that special fish. Something like Rad Sankey, probably the first top fish that I'd seen. Been in the hobby for sort of the best part of 30 years without really going to shows and things. Yeah. And you see something like that and you think, that's, that just blows your mind, and won't get to that stage, but that's a sort of bar that's being set, and that's how good koi can be.
It's inspiring, isn't it? Definitely.
But you could say, to be honest, any day you come home, look in the pond and everything's happy and they're all looking good, then it's the best hobby in the world anyway.
I'll gear that one as well. So show's been mentioned. Shirley, you've had experience of doing it. I'd like to know your views on what you found good about it, enjoyment, what you found not so good about showing. And Rob, you've not done it yet. Is it something you're considering? Are the reasons why you're not? Just sort of views and opinions from your own experiences.
The buzz that you get when you've actually worked on a fish, prepped it, got it to the show, and you see that little sticker there is like, wow, I've done it. I do work hard at it. Even my husband said in prep for the National, I never realised just how dedicated she is and the work that goes into it. I mean, it's like 6 weeks before I start, that looks a possibility. Start photographing them, measuring them. I won't take what I know doesn't stand a chance. If I'm going to go to that effort, I want to take something that I think, might be in with a chance. Take it from there. I'm a pain in the butt the morning that they're bagged up. I am evil.
Can imagine.
If my husband ever watches this, that's the truest word she's ever said.
I look forward to seeing his comments.
I get so stressed. From the moment they leave my pond until I get them back in, I'm a bit like cat on hot bricks. I know it shouldn't be the object because it's a chance we all take if you're moving fish around, but if you do it correctly, they should come back parasitic free, stress free, no split fins, etc. You might get the odd one, but to me, if you do it properly, it's not that much of a risk. I think there's too many people coming in too quickly again without the knowledge of how to prepare for a show. And to me, it is a set regime. You need to starve them in plenty of time, empty the guts, have the right equipment. The amount of people I see that don't have spare bags, don't have spare elastic bands.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Nets, everything else that goes with it. It's not a case of just taking them there and bringing them back. It's the preparation of everything else as well.
Yeah.
Rob probably doesn't have a chance at the moment because he drives me around. Well, Dave doesn't want to go, so Rob comes with me. He enjoys the show, so he does the driving and the fish and everything else. It's a good experience. It's a good learning curve because you can have a fish that you think, actually, walking around the other vats, that's him with a good chance. All it takes is for one judge to see something that you don't always see. It's not necessarily about the competition that you're up against. It's what that particular judge sees in the fish. Judges over here, so far in my experience, have a different view to what happens in Japan.
Yeah.
Based on that, I have had a fish that did take a bronze at the Young International Koi Show.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't say, but that actually means far more to me than probably half the prizes I've won in this country because of the different system. That fish is a NND Shiro from the DK line. To me, it's an amazing fish. The body structure on it, the Shiroji, Sumi, that fish has got just such a future. And the fact that it started off there, it's got 2 firsts at the shows I've taken it to in this country so far. To me, it's a fish with a future. And that's also what it's about. It's not just buying a fish. Anybody can go out and buy a fish and take it to the show in the hopes of winning, and if it does, great. It's being, to me, consistently to be able to improve that fish to a point where, it did well as a youngster. I've still got it 10 years down the line, and that fish is now this size.
It's still a good
and it's
fish.
Still representative of what the variety should be.
Yeah. Nice challenge, isn't it? So, other than Shirley filling up all your car space, is there anything holding you back, Rob, from getting into it?
Me, to be honest, I've toyed with the idea of doing it several times. I am sort of 50-50. I think one of the main things is my main sort of purchasing thing is for me.
Yep.
The fish is going to be in my pond, hopefully for a long time, hopefully see it develop. I do, as I've already mentioned, prefer sort of Sankey shower. So generally I'm not buying fish that are ready for a show. Then you get in that awkward position that they're probably not ready for a show until they're 75 cm. And to sort of dip your toe in the water by taking your best fish that are big fish and not easy to handle is a bit of a risk for me.
See that.
Similarly, we all make compromises. I spend more than most, but not as much as a lot of the people that are in the top show scene. And I'm happy to compromise on a few bits and pieces that a show judge might not.
I like that,
So I don't see it in my pond. I can enjoy the fish, but I'm also very critical of my own fish and I'm aware of the minor demerits. Try and take a step back because I think that's a no-win situation. If you concentrate on demerits, every fish has got a demerit. So you're never going to find the fish you fully like. So enjoy what's there. And as I say, if it's got a bit of Benny in the fin, if it's got a perhaps not quite so good pattern, perhaps it's not an Ojimi or something like that, then I'm happy that actually that sort of thing doesn't bother me in my pond, but it might bother a judge in a show vat. So I have toyed. To be honest, I love the show scene going as a spectator. I actually enjoy going when Shirley's taking all the hassle of actually bagging up the fish, doing the prep, and I can just go along for the ride. I get the feel good factor when we turn up on a Sunday morning and Shirley's done well. I'm pleased as well. You get to see all the other nice fish that so many people have got around the country and a chance to appreciate them. I don't like the sort of competitive sort of nature that these things can get into. I much rather the sort of the club scene and the friendly side of things, the good side of Facebook, and just our koi days like this. I don't like getting up in the morning. The only time I get up early, really, is when we're going on a koi trip. And I think that's why they call it the land of the rising sun, because that's the only time I see it. Nice. But yeah, so I'm not saying never, but I also appreciate that most of my fish wouldn't be show worthy until they get to a stage where they probably haven't got a chance, because they're against the big boys that are going out to Japan and sourcing their own stuff, and I'm glad they do, because it's fish that are above my level that we get a chance to actually view and enjoy once or twice a year. Yeah. So I hope the show scene keeps going.
Me too. It's important.
But whether I'll ever actually take the plunge, perhaps when Shirley sort of does retire, she might talk me into it. And if I've got something a bit smaller to sort of start with, rather than trying to take 75, 80 centimetre fish. But personally, I get far more pleasure from getting a good fish, maximising its development and getting up to the sort of 75, 80 cm and above than necessarily taking an award.
That's nice to hear from both of you, because it just goes, and this is what I've really been keen to get across, there's something in the hobby for everyone. Just because you don't show, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because you're clearly quite content in what you're doing, Rob. I'm more than happy with it, and hats off to you. That's, to be honest, the way I like to enjoy koi as well, but the show scene does add another element, and again, I love to dip into that. There is something out there for everybody in this job, even if it's not raising big fish, it's just keeping a nice pond. There's people who enjoy the water side more than actually keeping the koi. The koi are almost secondary to actually keeping a pond and an aquatic environment. Other people, go to the biggest extensive filter houses you've ever seen in your life, because that's where they like to be, mucking around with pipes and knowing all the science of it. So there is something for everyone, and no matter how you enjoy it, there's nothing wrong with it if it makes you happy.
When I was secretary of our local koi club for 10 years, I always used to say to people, you can make it as expensive as you want or as cheap as you want. It's your personal hobby. You don't have to follow the trend of so-and-so's done this, so-and-so's done that. And if we go on pond visits, you'll see a natural pond with a few koi in it that, plant to take out the nitrite and that's it. There's very little filtration. Or you can go to something that's cost 125 grand to build because the pond's pristine, the fish are top end, the filter house is nearly as big as your own house sort of thing. Yeah. It's what you want to make it.
Absolutely.
And I think the trend now is that there's too much emphasis on everything has to be a set way. And people are being misguided by that.
Do you think there's elements of it for you too, of where you've sort of moved into the hobby, maybe some of the circles that you naturally end up sort of going towards, maybe through the certain dealers that you end up visiting more, and just because of where you naturally moved to in the hobby? You get, we're sort of over lunch sort of discussing this, that I think there's this perception in the hobby that it's a real dog eat dog, bitchy, horrible world. And I've seen that side of it, but likewise the sort of side of it I'm heavily involved in with a lot of my customers and things seems quite peaceful, relaxed, chilled out, everyone just enjoying it and enjoying koi keeping.
I think with anything that's competitive, there's that element, and it can sadly take over. With regards to your knowledge and improvement in the hobby, you need to find a dealer that you like their stock, is within your budget, that you can trust, and
I think makes you feel at ease, and value is important as well.
Yeah,
really
it's if you build up that relationship and you see a fish that perhaps, for instance, the golden corns. Yeah. There aren't that many in the country. If you like the fish and it's something you're looking to source, if you have that relationship, you can say to your dealer, I'm looking for this. This is within my budget. Is there a possibility you can source one of those for me? Whereas you could spend a lifetime going around every single dealer in the country and still not be happy with what you're buying. Yeah. Because it's easy to get led into somebody putting a couple of fish in a bowl. That's got potential to do this, that, and the other. You can have that a bit. I'll knock a bit of discount off for you. You're almost forced into buying a fish that you don't particularly like. It might be, yeah, wow, that was great in the bowl. You put it in your pond and think, what the hell did I buy that for? And it comes back to having that trust and patience again. You know, there are some fish that take 5 years down the line to stabilise in pattern, growth, everything else. You look at it and think, never actually thought that was going to have the potential to do that when I bought it. Was vaguely there, but it's having the patience to see it develop. So to me, having somebody that you have that relationship with is paramount to improving. Otherwise, you're just going round and round and round in circles.
Yeah. And I think just going back to my point, be careful with the circles you end up mixing in.
Yeah.
Because it can, I've seen this, it can really influence your hobby in a bad way as much as it can a good way if you pick the wrong one.
I think a good dealer can be, and good local clubs, things like that, some good solid advice can be make or break. I think nowadays everyone's so used to sort of popping on the internet.
Yeah.
Something's a penny cheaper, so I'll buy it from there. You forget something like koi, the experience, you know, the dealers have seen thousands times more fish than you'll ever see and own yourself. They know how things are developing. They can give you a bit of a helping hand in selecting. If you're having issues, if you've got the relationship with a dealer, you can speak to them and get some sensible advice. Yes, you can get that from Facebook and things, but it's like a lot of these things that there's a lot of well-meaning people out there, but not all of the advice is brilliant. And I think you've stressed an awful lot. There's a very much in the koi world, there's not a one size fits all.
No.
I mean, flukes are a great example. There's been some people that will use a treatment once and it clears everything. Others who are very experienced hobbyists will go through the entire range and have to come up with something that's not on the back of the packet to actually get to the bottom of it. And I think that's where, personally, I haven't got a quarantine system. So I've got only sort of 2 people that I bought fish from in the last 5 years. And I keep it to that on the basis that I don't want to be buying all here, there and everywhere. It's 2 dealers I know that have got very good quarantine procedures themselves. And so I've got trust in what they say. I'll listen to the advice. I won't always act on it because at the end of the day, I've got to like the fish as well. But I don't disregard it when there's people that are trying to help you and have got more knowledge than you. You'll be daft not to sort of follow it.
It's the right attitude to have for sure. So just sort of winding down then a little bit, favourite varieties or favourite variety each year is going to be an hard one.
Got to be Sankey for me.
Sankey, I like to hear that, Rob. You know, that's the one variety I hear so much. The general thing with Sankey is I don't get them. The most common thing I hear about them constantly, they're not an easy fish to sell. I love them. I absolutely love them. The technicality of them as well and all the rest of it. But yeah, hats off to you.
I think they've been so hard to get good ones. And I remember the first time I ever met you at the National Show, through Shirley, I was looking at buying a Sankey or a Showa. And your advice was then, go for the Sankey. If you see a good Sankey, you've got to take it when you can, because Showa, definitely Kohaku, you tend to see a lot more good ones.
Was it Momotaro one you ended up buying?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
A male again, and it did very well. And was my most expensive fish at the time. Wish it still was. But, but no, I mean, I've got sort of 4 Sankey at the moment, 3 of them Tucano. Great. Yeah. Some of the sort of things, I've been nearly 40 years in the hobby. You mentioned about the Sumi the last couple of weeks. And then you look at the pond and you think, well, I've got 2 very similar fish from Tucano, sort of 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Benny style, the keywords all very similar, body shape's very similar. One of them's got the Sumi, the older one, that's really low down and taken a long time to come out. The Nisai I only picked up in the spring, and it was one of those with a couple of spots of Sumi.
That's gone wild.
Suddenly it's 10 at 24 degrees. It's sort of multiplied by 10 and a couple of other little spots, and that's, in some ways, that's the best bit of the hobby. The fact that they have come up on the white in just the sort of places where there was a little bit of a gap in the pattern. That's the sort of thing that sort of I sort of look for, and that's where I get the most pleasure from.
Yeah, nice.
And so, yeah, definitely Sankey for me.
About you then, Shirley?
I think you know the answer.
I think I do. I might be wrong, though. Not one of the blue ones, by any chance.
They're my second favourite.
Yeah, I'm going to say...
My heart always goes to Showa.
Yeah.
But Asagi.
Yeah.
A good Asagi. And as you know, there's only one breeder that does well in my pond. The first one I ever bought from you is still swimming around.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Probably just turning off its best. It's got 3 rogue penny scales.
Yeah.
But other than that, clean as a whistle.
No. And if I remember back, that weren't an expensive fish either.
No, it wasn't.
No.
Sunday morning, I dragged my husband up because we were visiting family in Nottingham. Where the bloody hell are you taking me? And yeah, it was overwintered and picked it up in the spring.
Yeah. Showa, there's something there with Showa, isn't there? They are fascinating.
I think they're the most difficult. You know, you say about Sankey, but to me, Showa, it's just so difficult to get everything right. But if you do get it right, wow, they're just absolutely
I think the
mine.
transforming element of Showa is one that keeps people hooked. They really do just constantly blow your mind, don't they, what they can do.
I think they're a variety that have probably changed more in more recent time, since you said recently, since the Mako sort of bloodline at Momotaro, and then that sort of filtering through to some of the Dainichis and things. That being able to push Showa to the same sort of levels as Sankey and Kohaku, I think has been a bit of a game changer.
It's remarkable what they did, really.
And it's good that they are doing that while they're developing, you know, your golden corns and these new sort of varieties.
Yeah, it keeps it fresh, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, what my appreciation has no bounds. If it's good, I'm generally getting into it quite easily. But, favourite breeders then? Or favourite breeder again, both of you? Just one that you've had experiences with on average.
Showa, it has to be Fujio.
Yeah.
His stuff is... I wish there was... Well, in a way, I wish there was more available in this country. I think he's very underrated. People just don't see what he's producing enough of to experience just how far he's come.
Don't really produce them anymore, you know.
Shame.
Leaves it all to Makoto.
Ah, well. Yeah. I mean, he's
with his supervision,
of
course.
Yeah.
But now it's took an interesting... Obviously, the line that you'll have known, obviously, back when you visited Japan and all the rest, they do actually still have some of the parents from that line, but they're not really producing any sort of numbers. It's a new evolution at NND now. It's all based on Dainichi blood. But the set at the minute, what it tends to do is they've not had a lot of consistency in recent years, and parent fish changes, but they've got one at the minute that I own quite a few fish of, and this parent is just an absolute beast. I've never seen skin like it, and the head, I'll have to dig your picture out in a bit, it's absolute jackhammer of an head on it, like I've never seen on a koi. And it's a trait that's passing through, so all of a sudden it's like they've clicked, they've got something here at a minute, and it's dead interesting again.
Yeah.
But they never seem to follow a uniform style in their production. I think that's something Umo's always had with his Showa.
Yeah.
They always look different to everybody else's in what he created.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's strange you say that, because you can pick them out. There was a video, I think it was a German guy that was doing them, and it said about going to NND farm, and there was a bowl of Showa. He'd also been to Dainichi.
Yeah.
Fujios were just like, you can tell that bowl's his, that's Dainichi. And if you know the subtle differences, it's clear to see. But some of the stuff he produced was just mind-blowing.
Phenomenal guy as well.
Yeah, so nice, so nice.
So, what about you, Rob?
I've got to love sort of Dainichi and what they're doing, but actually for my own pond, it's got to be Takano. The 3 I've got of those, couple getting close to 80 cm,
Yeah.
And yeah, they just float my boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose I've been a bit unfortunate. A couple of Sakai that I've had have sort of developed secondary. A couple of Dainichis I've been pleased with, but no, for my pond Takano, probably for overall, then I would say Dainichi.
Yeah. Again, Takano, what a boy. If only you could all get to meet him.
Yeah.
And obviously for people who don't know, that's been in the UK market under a sort of cameo name of Secret Sankey for a number of years, but the one behind it, Takano, serious guy. And all he breeds is Sankey. He's actually his day job, as he likes to remind me constantly, he's a mud pond constructor. Quite a renowned one, because he managed to get big diggers in very tight spaces up very tall mountains.
Yeah.
It's the humility of the guy is unbelievable. You know, tell him about his fish, and he's just like, they're not all that good. It's just incredible when you're actually stood there while you're looking at his fish, and that's sort of his attitude, and he's not even saying it for attention. It's what he actually believes. Hats off to the guy.
You'll have to get him on Facebook. You'll see by the amount of likes.
I honestly think, we're hopefully getting the crew out there as soon as we can, and he is one person I want on camera. Yeah. Hopefully not asking me for nude pictures of my wife again either.
If he gets a bit of discount.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been great, and
enjoyable.
I think people's going to take a lot from a chat like this. So fingers
Hopefully.
crossed, and maybe when you're up this way again, we'll get you back.
Another 10 years.
Brilliant. So there we have it, folks, and we'll be back again soon with another episode. Thanks for tuning in.